Hello and welcome to Own Your Health with me, Katie Brindle. And today is Q&A day. She says she has a huge scar from her appendix removal. So will the sculptor help loosen the inside tissue and attachments? Yes. Now we move on to Lara. So poor Lara says that her daughter has chronic fatigue syndrome and she'd be extremely grateful if I could provide any recommendations for this, as it's much overlooked and increasingly common. Hello and welcome to Own Your Health with me, Katie Brindle. And today is Q&A day. So we're going to be talking about all sorts of interesting topics today. But before we get on to that, I just want to first of all say, please do not forget to rate and review me on Apple Podcasts or follow me on Spotify because it helps me help you. Also, do please leave me your comments or questions on TikTok, Instagram and YouTube. Now, also, before we get started on this very exciting Q&A, I just would like to talk to you about DR.VEGAN, which is one of my favourite supplement brands and I'm very happy to be working with on this podcast. Now, what I love about DR.VEGAN is a few things. First of all, their supplements are vegan, obviously, as the name explains. Secondly, the packaging is completely biodegradable. And thirdly, they don't use any nasties or chemicals in any of their products. So they give you a very, very high quality of product and they've really thought through all the other aspects of selling the products to you. So you as the customer are not thinking, I need to put this in recycling or I need to start thinking about what else is in this product. So do please pop over to their website and have a look. And very excitingly, off your first order, if you wish to order, you can put in the code Brindle25 and guess what? You'll receive 25% off. Very nice indeed. So do have a little look at the DR.VEGAN website. The products which I'm particularly excited about are these ones here, because I know that often you'll go over there and you'll see loads of different things. Oh my God, where do I start? So some of the ones that I've used to great effect is Hair Saviour. I think this is a fab product. Meno Friend, which I've recommended to loads and loads and loads of people. This is a brilliant product, tried and tested by thousands and thousands of menopausal ladies, all agreeing with me. Another one here, which I like a lot, which actually I gave to my daughter during her A-levels and seemed to work under great stress, which was Stay Calm, which is for managing stress and anxiety. And another one that I've liked a lot is the Gutworks, which has got 50 billion live cultures in it. So those are four which I have personally used myself or prescribed to people sort of in my close environment or to my clients, and everyone's fed back to me personally saying how good they think they are too. But if you pop over to their website, use Brindle25, you'll see for yourself. So back now to the Q&A. So the first one has come from Sarah Miros. She says she has a huge scar from her appendix removal. So will the sculptor help loosen the inside tissue and attachments? Yes. In summary, the answer is. And I would very much be using the slightly serrated edge as well. But as well as the sculptor, so what I would be doing with the sculptor is kind of sculpting sort of laterally across the body, sort of sweeping diagonally as if you were following the contours of the ribs, like kind of swooshing down like this, zhung, zhung, like that. But as well as the sculptor, I would then go on and use a slightly finer tool, which is the body restorer, which for those of you listening on audio only is a sort of kidney-shaped metal tool with quite a fine rounded edge on the side. Now this is called the body restorer because it's basically a body gua sha tool. And it's very good for sort of getting into the nitty-gritty. So really what I would be doing is using the sculptor first and then going into the gua sha tool afterwards and just really doing fine little gua sha movements like this, just gently over the affected area itself. It will take a little while to break down, but it will work. As well as gua sha, which means press stroke, which is where you literally press the tool and stroke it across the area. There's another way that you can use this tool, which we call plucking the thorn. And plucking the thorn is literally imagining that there's a thorn attached kind of where that scar is, and you want to sort of press the tool just to the side of it and pluck the thorn out as if literally you were removing it with the tool like that, so plucking it out. Those are two really good techniques. Don't be concerned if you get sort of deep red because it's likely to come up red because the scar is likely to appear because there's stagnation under the surface. Always make sure that you stay comfortable with what you're doing. If it starts to go red, just stop and then have a go the next day. Don't gua sha or do plucking the thorn if the red is still there from the day before. Let it all go completely and then do it again. And if you're not sure, you can always message me and send me a picture. One other thing that's also really good for, she said, reaching across to a little bag of tools here, for scar tissue is this, which is called a 7-star hammer. So it's a little plastic hammer that I'm wiggling around for those listening. And it's brilliant. So once you've done the sculpture and the gua sha, you can then just take the little hammer and you go tuck, 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 like that. Just hammer, hammer, hammer. It's teeny tiny. It's very lightweight. It's plastic with a teeny tiny little head at the top with 7 tiny little sort of star needles in it. Always make sure that you disinfect them beforehand. I will always recommend you use colloid silver to do that, but you can get little disinfectant wipes that will work just as well, and dry it afterwards. But basically just tap it over the scar itself and it will start to really break down the tissue. So it's a very useful little tool. A lot of people get put off the second 7-star hammer because it just kind of think, oh my God, it's got teeny tiny little pinpricks at the top. So it's not the starting tool by a large extent. But if you've got a scar, I worked on my C-section scar using this and it totally worked. And eventually it went entirely, which was a wonderful thing. So that's you. Now, then Alison Holden emailed in and she was told by her doctor that she was presenting with lymphedema. She says she has swelling around her left ankle and her calf can become swollen. She guesses from fluid pooling, especially around the ankle. Warm weather, flying, being on her feet for long periods can worsen this. And you remember that he tested what type by pressing into the right limb, and fortunately the imprint from his thumb reverted back to normal rather than staying inverted. She practices legs up against the wall, and that helps. She also says that I have always experienced heavy legs after being on my feet for longer periods, even as a younger person, and she's now 59. So how can she improve this? She's been to see her doctor, which is the first thing that I would say. You have to see your doctor for lymphedema. You must always consult your doctor for anything that I discuss here. If you're not sure, always please consult your GP. So basically, what we suggest for this is, now, this is basically in Chinese medicine a condition of the spleen primarily, and then the kidneys. So both of those organs have responsibility to the fluids in your body. But when we're dealing with kind of heavy legs, lymphedema, and any kind of sort of swelling of the lower legs, that is immediately the first organ we go to is the spleen. Now, the other telltale sign in this is that you've said, even when you were younger, you used to get heavy legs from standing up. And if you get fatigued and heavy legs from standing up, immediately spleen. Okay, the spleen energy is about upright energy. It's about being able to stand. It's about being able to be up and keeping everything up. And the spleen is also responsible for the transformation and transportation of fluids around the body. So if fluids are pooling, it's because the spleen isn't transporting them correctly. Also, lymph, which is part of very much the condition of lymphedema, is also managed by the spleen. So the minute that everything's starting to pool and get held down in the lower body and it's not being lifted up properly, and you've got heavy legs from when you were younger, it sounds to me like your spleen isn't doing very well and it needs a little bit of support. Now, the kidneys also get whipped up into this condition as well. And this is because the kidneys are very much responsible for fluid. Water. They're the water element. They're responsible, anything to do with water in the body, the kidneys. The kidneys are also very much responsible for fluid metabolism in the body and just ensuring that fluids are, once they've been processed and once the lymph has kind of filtered everything through the lymph glands, that they then go through a further processing through the kidneys and then end up in the bladder and getting excreted out through the water passages of the body. So the kidneys are the secondary organ, but really it's the spleen that we need to look at. Now, what do we do? Because the thing is, by the time it started to reach lymphedema, things like gua sha and body sculpting are contraindicated, so you can't do it. But there is a really lovely tool that you can use, which is the soft body brush. She says, reaching across, all the tools are here, it's fantastic. This is basically, it just looks like a long-handled body brush, which is exactly what it is. But the thing about this particular body brush is it's really, really soft. Okay, because the thing about the spleen is that spleen energy, which is controlling this problem, and I believe what the root of the problem is, likes tenderness and gentleness. It doesn't like to be prodded and poked and scraped and bullied and sort of like forced into doing lots of things. It's not that organ. It's a soft, gentle organ. It just likes to be soothed and comforted and caressed, and this is the product to do it. So what we do is, I know everyone out there, when they talk about lymphatic drainage, always talks about going up towards the heart, but I do it differently, because the thing about the lymph is that lymph flows through fascia, okay, and also so does energy. So, but the energy controls everything in the body. Energy is everything. Energy, or chi, commands blood, and blood in turn commands lymph and fluids and everything else. Okay, so you've got to go to the root, and this is where I sort of part company with other experts. Now, again, intention ultimately will also control everything. So if you set your mind to the fact you're going to clear your lymph, you can do whatever you like, and it will probably work if your intention is strong enough. But let's go by the book, okay? So and this is safe. So what you do is, the other thing to do is energy flows in spirals. So when normally people body brush, they kind of scrub away at their body going towards the heart, pressing like one direction, like scrub, 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 and often with quite a ruthless brush. Now, that's other things for that. But when you're dealing with lymph issues, instead of that, what you want to do is you want to be going in soft circles, like this. So for those listening, I'm sort of doing round and round the garden like a teddy bear kind of motion, that sort of thing. Okay, so everyone knows what that is. And what we're doing with the lymph is you want to basically go down the outside of the legs and up the inside of the legs. And you want to go all the way down in these gentle strokes, spiral, 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 all the way down in one direction, all the way down over the top of the feet, and then come all the way up. Now, by doing so, you're commanding the energy, and in turn, the energy is commanding the physical body. And ultimately, you end up back in the lymph glands because the lymph nodes are down in the groin area of the body. So that's the first area. Now, the other area I'd recommend is to go around the abdomen. So you want to be going round in a clockwise direction around the abdomen. Circle, 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 circle. So we're just going round in tiny little round around the gardens, all around the abdomen in a clockwise direction. Slowly, gently. Smile on your lips like Mona Lisa, breathe nice and slowly. And then last but by no means least, the other thing that I would recommend you do is take the brush, start around the armpit, so just lift your arm up, and then spiral down at the side of the breast tissue, and then just sweep into the abdomen. So you're sort of sweeping across the rib cage, effectively, avoiding the breast area. And so that you want to go in that area as well. And do this a lot. Okay, because this is going to really, really help support the spleen. Now, the other thing that I would then also suggest you do is download my free spleen fact sheet, which we will give you the link after this episode, and have a look at all the information there as well, because there's a lot of other things that I can tell you to do to support your spleen, which if I go into this podcast too long, I'll bore everyone else senseless. But all of that information is available free on the website. Now, for the kidneys are the secondary organ which is responsible for this. So again, there's a free kidney fact sheet which will help you. But one of the most important things for your kidneys is to keep your body warm, especially your lower belly. Okay, so one of the things that I like to recommend, because this helps the spleen as well, is to wear a kidney warmer. They're very, very useful. You can get them easily online. They're not expensive. So you can, sort of just Google them. You'll see, you'll find a good brand that will come up. There's various different ones. So I don't have a particular brand that I'm absolutely obsessed with, but, there are loads of them. And if you don't fancy wearing a kidney warmer, the other thing I recommend is wearing a vest. It sounds a bit boring, but I wear like the Sweaty Betty ones, which are these sort of bamboo vests, which kind of also work like kind of bras as well. They're quite handy, and they stay in place, and they look like a nice little layer when you're wearing clothes. So they're quite a useful thing. So there's various different options there. And last but by no means least, please, please, please ensure that you are wearing slippers or flip-flops, because this episode's being broadcast we're going into the height of summer, and loads of people wander around with bare feet, my kids included, and we've got stone floors at my house, and I go absolutely nuts at them. Now I've bludgeoned them now after years of living on stone floors. They now do actually, in fairness, wear flip-flops or slippers. So please ensure that you're keeping your feet warm at all times. Okay, it's really important, and that information should hopefully help you. And also, just for anybody who suffers with this problem or anything to do with their lymph, we also have another free fact sheet on the website, which is all about lymph disorders as well. So I can't say fairer than that, can I? So now we move on to Lara. So poor Lara says that her daughter has chronic fatigue syndrome, and she'd be extremely grateful if I could provide any recommendations for this, as it's much overlooked and increasingly common. And you are absolutely right. So chronic fatigue, she says, just taking a little drink here because I've got a bit of a cough at the moment, everyone. So I'm just kind of making sure that my voice is all right. Hang on. Okay, so chronic fatigue, interestingly, is the flip side of lymphedema. So we were just saying that it was spleen first, kidneys second. Now, actually, with chronic fatigue, it's the same organs the other way round for different reasons. So in this instance, it's the kidneys first, followed by the spleen. Why? Well, interesting. That the kidneys are responsible for many different aspects in the body's health. And the kidneys are responsible for energy. They're the batteries of the body. And they literally are like a mobile phone needing to be charged up. Now, in the olden days, which I'm not necessarily were good old days because often they were not, but one of the things that we used to have was a slower pace, and we used to have a lot more nature. And we used to be outside much more in nature as well. Okay. And this is one of the main problems living in the 21st century, is that we've been removed from nature. We have what I like to call, and I think other people call it this too, although I've been saying this for a while, so I don't know who nicked it off who, but anyway. So I like to call it nature deficit disorder, which is what I think we have. Everyone's looked up and go, we like that. Okay, I know. I've been saying that for years, but I don't know if I can claim it. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Who cares? But we have nature deficit disorder, and we need